Hello and welcome to At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Oftentimes people hear the word leader and they think only of political leaders, but leaders come in many forms, and that's worth exploring. I'm Jim Hoyer, born and raised in West Virginia, a husband, a father, a new grandfather, and a retired military leader, serving for over 40 years in public leadership for our state and nation. Now, the most important mission I have going forward is to educate, motivate, and empower our next generation of leaders. At the leadership table with me today is David McCormick. David is a West Virginia small business owner, the owner of Omega Commercial Interiors, and a community leader in our state and north central West Virginia. And David, this past year, became a member of the House of Delegates from the 82nd District and brings a business focus to his role in the House of Delegates. And Dave, it's a pleasure to have you with us at the leadership table today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, David, I'm going to ask you the same first question we ask all of our guests. Please share with us a standout moment when you learned something really important about leadership.
Well, you know, I'm going to kind of tie this to being an entrepreneur. And when you start a business or have a business, you know, you can't look around and say, well, what are we going to do now? You know, you've got to make decisions, you've got to evaluate situations, and you've got to be definitive about it. And you've got to sell your ideas, and you know, you've got to be flexible in your thinking, and people follow you. And when you have a company and you're leading a company or group, whether it's in government or in business, you know, a leader is decisive and recognizes change and how to adapt to it, and offers solutions and acts on it. And I think that those are qualities of a leader that I think most people recognize. You can't teach that kind of stuff. That's just, you know, some people are and some aren't. That's okay if you're not. But there's one in every crowd, and people seem to gravitate towards those types of qualities in people. So that's what I think leadership is. But specifically, when I started my company 13 years ago, you know, it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like the dog that catches a car, right? You know, oh wow, what am I going to do with it now? And you've got to step up and make those decisions and do the things that it takes to be successful. And that's what I've done. And I've led my employees and others, and I'm real proud of it.
And some great examples and important qualities for leadership in today's world. So David McCormick grew up in Logan County, West Virginia. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Logan County, West Virginia, how that influenced who you are today and how you got here to Morgantown.
Yeah. So I had a very unique experience growing up. My family, I am from Logan, graduated from Logan High School in 1987, played sports. It's a big basketball town, as a lot of people around West Virginia know. Logan's my home. I've lived in Morgantown for 26 years, and but my family still, mom and dad are still in Logan. My accent's still from Logan. I haven't been able to shake it. I haven't tried, but so unique growing up there in regard to our family business. So in 1936, my great-grandfather started a store, McCormick's, in downtown Logan, and grew. It was a department store. Grew over the years, furniture and men's clothing, women's clothing, children's clothing. My grandfather on my mom's side was in the mine cable repair business. So we were families on both sides of business owners and employers and taxpayers and community influencers. And so McCormick's, the family business, is still there today. In November will be 90 years. And I'm real proud of that. So growing up in that atmosphere, you don't realize what you're learning when you're a little kid, but all the conversations that you overhear about, maybe it's an employee issue, maybe it's you're upset about, some tax issue, or making decisions about expanding the business or not, or do we need to buy a new truck or don't we, or do we need to hire another delivery guy or don't we? You don't think that stuff's sinking in, but it's amazing as you get older and you get into those types of situations how you somewhere inside of you draws from those experiences and those conversations that you were a part of or overheard when you were growing up. Also working in the store, I sold men's clothes, I laid carpet, I delivered furniture, I washed the windows and swept the floors and worked in the office, and it was a true family company. So I learned a lot there dealing with customers. I'm in 8th, 9th grade, selling suits and tying ties for people. You learn a lot about that. Whether it's, you gain people's trust, right? And so I took all those experiences growing up. My family was involved in politics. My uncle was the mayor of our town and later served in the House of Delegates. My maternal grandfather was chairman of the Republican Party in Logan County for 35 years, and that was back when you could shoot a shotgun down the street and not hit a Republican. And I've grew up in that atmosphere as well. Mm-hmm. And so in my adult life, it's a very natural transition. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but it's been a very natural transition for me to be a business owner and an employer and involved in the community to being in politics.
So you and I had a conversation, and we realized that we had a mutual relationship with somebody, and that was your Uncle Bob.
That's right.
Who, when I was a young guy working for the state legislature, your Uncle Bob was in the legislature, a committee chairman, and a well-respected leader in the House of Delegates, and somebody who mentored me along the way. And I assume you took some of that experience.
I did. I was a page when he was there. He was chairman of the government org, which I'm as a freshman on the government org committee. I'll tell you a cool story. So my maternal great-grandfather had two sons that were in World War II, one in the Pacific Theater, one in Europe, and owned a little grocery store. The kind of grocery store where you gave people credit and delivered the groceries to them up the holla outside in Logan County, and they pay you once a month. He was in that business. Well, during World War II, when his two sons, my great uncles, and this again is on my mom's side of the family, he had a 48-star flag, because this was in the 40s, late 30s. 48-star flag that hung, a big canvas flag that hung from the ceiling in the store, and my mom found it recently, And I took it, had it framed, and today, not making this up, it's being hung in the government organization committee room in the Capitol. It's 4x6, so it's a big flag. Mm-hmm. And it's got a hole in it and got stains on it. I mean, it's the real deal. And I was real proud of that. There'll be a little plaque there commemorating my great-grandfather and me being a delegate, donating it to the state. I donated mm-hmm. it to the state. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm gone from the house, it'll reside in the Cultural Museum at the Capitol. So that's happening today, actually.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. But my Uncle Bob was a big influence politically, but my grandfather, my mom's dad, his name was Tennis Killen, T.K. Killen, and he was heavily involved in politics. So I grew up, same mm-hmm. thing. You ever hear stuff, they talk about stuff, you don't realize how much you're retaining, but it becomes part of your DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to more of that in a minute. But tell us how you ended up coming from Logan County, West Virginia, to owning a business in Morgantown.
Sure. I worked I went home after college and worked, decided at that point, and I give my dad a lot of credit. My dad, I'm a junior, David Sr., I give him a lot of credit for this, a lot of things, but this is one of them. And that was when I came home, unlike other prior generations in my family, I was given a choice of what I was going to do for a living. And I was very grateful for that. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to rejoin the family business, I would have absolutely been more than welcome and encouraged to do that. But my dad, to his credit, said, look, if this isn't what you want to do, it's okay. And that really surprised me. That was a real watershed moment for me. That was in 1992. And I chose to not go back. Mm-hmm. And I went to work for Pepsi Cola. That was my first job in Logan, West Virginia. So riding around on truck routes, and so I didn't join the business. Went out on my own. I had a good experience. I moved away with I won't get into too far down the weeds, but I took another job with another company out of state in Louisiana. Lived down there for 4 years, and I went to the movies and I saw October Sky, and you saw it. Mm-hmm. And I went out in the parking lot after. I was a little homesick anyway, and I went out in the parking lot and I called my mom, and I said, I'm coming home.
It was time to come home.
This is it for me. I'm gonna quit my job and I'm coming home. And so I ended up staying with the company. They moved me back to Morgantown. Mm-hmm. That's how I got back to Morgantown. I was working for someone else. And I learned a lot through these other jobs that I had with other people, and it's not so much that when you're going to start a business and everybody gets out, they get out of college, I'm going to start a company. Well, it's almost you got to learn about what not to do as much as you need to learn about what to do.
Right.
So I had some good bosses and I had some bad ones too, and you learn just as much from the bad ones as you do the good ones, and that's probably more important, quite mm-hmm. frankly. About how not to do things, how not to treat people. Mm-hmm. So I took a lot away from my experiences working for other companies. And in 2013, I was 45 years old, and I thought, you know what, it's time. If I'm ever going to do this, I was happy, had a pretty good life, and I just completely started over. and it's been very rewarding, and all the things that growing up in Logan, growing up in family businesses, being around politics, being around people, waiting on people, dealing with people that are upset, whatever the case may be, in that environment, it all came together, and I put all that to work, and it's been great. And
so I saw this with your Uncle Bob. He brought to his legislative work the fact that he was a family business owner, right, that he was an employer and his employees relied on him for their economic and family futures. Mm-hmm. He brought that to his work. Tell me about how you're bringing that same thing to your work as a member of the legislature.
Yeah, I learned a lot, like I said, from him and from my grandfather. Let me just start with this. I've been a political person my whole adult life. I've been involved in campaigns and won and lost and mm-hmm. learned a lot, and I'm not a huge policy guy. I'm just kind of a people guy. What do people, and not try to be smarter than everybody else, So generally knowing what I know about the legislature, there's just not enough business people in the legislature, period. No offense to any other vocation. But, economic development is a passion of mine, mm-hmm. and, it's all about the jobs. Having a job cures a lot of things. You're less likely to be on drugs. You're less likely to be engaged in criminal activity. If you're gainfully employed and have insurance, and you're more than likely going to have a family and have kids, and that's what America is, right? Mm-hmm. So having said that, I know what it takes to run a business. I know what it takes to be successful. I know I know how to start a business. I know what makes it hard and what helps. So if you take that and you go to Charleston and apply that to legislation, how is that helping business? How is that helping create a job? Is it regulatory? Maybe it has to do with taxes or environmental regulation or workers' comp or unemployment, or a lot of issues that businesses deal with that makes it more attractive, not only for business to open up organically in West Virginia, but for business from outside the state to come here. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to do, is to grow West Virginia. And how does it grow? It grows through companies coming here, and from people starting companies and employing people and business. So just generically, organically speaking, I just thought there needed to be more business people in the West Virginia legislature. That's why I ran for office. That's mm-hmm. what I do when I'm there. The first thought that goes through my mind is what problems is fixing. Mm-hmm. When someone introduces an idea or a bill, and some of them are silly, and some of them are pretty daggone clever.
And do you think also, both from your family experience, you talked about your McCormick's and Logan's going to soon celebrate its 90th year in business. You don't just do that by accident. That's a lot of hard work and taking care of employees, and you take care of employees every day. So do you think understanding what your employees need to be successful, to raise their families and do those things, you bring that sense of common sense and reality to the legislative process?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, you've got to think about, people want to get ahead, and you need to try to help them. And even if that means them growing out of your business and maybe doing something on their own. I've had that happen, and it happened to me. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned was when I went to the gentleman, and a lot of people know him. I'm not going to mention his name, but in West Virginia, he's a pretty famous guy. I was working for 18 years and told him I wanted to leave and start my own business, and he shook my hand and told me, anybody that wants to do that and has the fortitude to try that, I gotta, kudos, and I thought, wow, what a great attitude to have. So I've kind of tried to adopt that. Well, so as far as the legislature goes, I mean, it's you've got workers have to be treated fairly. Whether union or non-union or whatever the case may be, people just want to work and they want to be treated fairly. And I learned that, and your constituents are your customers, essentially. So growing up in that business, that's why it's still there today. Frankly, is because of customers. I mean, if you go from Beckley to Huntington, you sit somewhere long enough, you'll find somebody that's bought a couch at McCormick's, and it's generational, frankly, and it's because of how you deal with people and how you take care of customers, and there's a lot that goes into that. You've got to have employees that have bought into your leadership, that embrace your business and what you're trying to do, and your goals and your vision, and your customers see that, they feel that. So when I'm sitting at my seat on the House floor, I'm thinking about those things and how does this affect people, what we're doing, and I've been, and you know what? And this is true too. You have votes that you're proud of, and you have some you wish you had back. And I can tell you that after even one session. So that's just being real about it, Right. And I just you just try to do what's right and think about just the normal everyday family, how it affects them.
So you mentioned that your dad, David Sr., gave you an option to stay with the family business in Logan, go out on your own. Then you also mentioned you had a boss of 18 years who, when you went to him and said, hey, I think I want to still at 45 start my own business, gave you some encouragement and I assume advice. So what advice would you give to somebody today that wants to start a business in West Virginia?
Well, you have to be patient, okay? And you don't know everything. You don't know what you don't know. I'll give you a few. Because I've had these conversations with people. If you're not, you can't ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. If you're going to be the one that signs the paychecks, you got to be willing to deliver the carpet and furniture, or sell the tie, or wash the windows, or whatever it is. We all had to do it, and you've got to be willing to do whatever in your business, whatever that may be, that you're asking someone else to do. You can't, the little things, be on time, say please and thank you, finish what you started. That's just kindergarten stuff, but it applies to starting a business. Stay focused. That's the finish what you started, So
little keys to success.
Little keys to success, and you've got to take things in steps. You've got to build on your success. Another thing I tell people is financially, keep your powder dry. You get a big order, a big contract, or something happens, you have a big windfall for your company. that doesn't mean you go buy a new car.
Right.
You reinvest in your business.
Yeah.
Maybe you hire another employee. Maybe you buy another delivery truck. I don't know. But those are the kinds of things that's one thing that I always, again, learned growing up. You reinvest your profits in the business to grow your business. That's and your employees appreciate that. They see that, and I think that's helps morale too.
So, last question for you: as a business leader, member of the legislature, but more importantly, a family guy, what's your hope for West Virginia?
Well, my hope for West Virginia is and I think we're heading in the right direction. I really do. I think that economic development-wise, we've had some big wins in the past, 2 years, let's say. I toured Nucor a month ago. Unbelievable. What's going on over along the river is people don't. There's 3 or 4 companies that are building right now. That's what we need, and I think we need to work on infrastructure in West Virginia. There's a lot of places that aren't developed because of simple things like they don't have adequate water, or for instance, and particularly in the southern part of the state. So my hope for West Virginia is to continue this economic growth, to continue to sell West Virginia and all the things that we have here, which obviously are natural beauty and great people. It's geographically probably the best located state in the United States, and so I that's my hope is to keep growing jobs, recruiting businesses and companies to come here, fostering growth from within. We've made some real strides in the past, I'll say 10 years, with tort reform and tax reform and things that have made West Virginia a much more attractive state. And we still have one big problem out there. It's not exclusive to West Virginia, but drugs have killed a whole almost generation of people, of workers, of employees. Since we're talking about business and employees, if a young person today, and this is really dumbing it down, but if you can show up on time and pass a drug test, you'd be shocked how far you'll go, and it's hard to find, and it's sad to say, but that's the biggest problem we face right now with our younger folks. But that's my hope for West Virginia, is to continue this economic development growth and to make West Virginia better for families and better place to raise a family and work and live.
Well, David, I appreciate your public service, but more importantly, I appreciate your service with your family and then your business over 90 plus years of making West Virginia successful. And thank you for joining us at the leadership table today.
My pleasure. It's great being here. Thanks, General.
Thanks for listening. This has been At the Leadership Table with retired Major General Jim Hoyer. Did you know you can now find me on social media at RMG Hoyer? That's HOYER, or email me at rmgjameshoyer@gmail.com.